back to another Division 2 build video. But if you happen to be new to the channel, or you're just enjoying the content, then please be sure to ground and pound that like and subscribe button. Also, reach up there, trigger the bell, and turn on post notifications, so that way you never miss a live stream or a video that is uploaded. Well, one would assume that since it is the apartment, aka I dub it the duplex, because when you do put two apartments together and they're conjoined, we call that an actual duplex. So this is the duplex build. And no, it is not a clutch SMG build like some would throw up because it's just so easy. But it is actually different if you want to go with a different variation of what's predominantly used in the Dark Zone. But in comparison to that predominantly used AR Berserk Clutch version that we so frequently see, it is not viable at all going up against an AR Clutch Berserk build when you are on an SMG Berserk build. And the reason why is because the AR has the 29% damage to health. So if you're going to make a Berserk Clutch build, then definitely the AR is the way to go, because that 29% damage to health is very, very good against other clutch builds. And if you go up against that with an SMG clutch build, you're just going to get absolutely completely destroyed, unless you just have absolutely complete potato aim with that AR Berserk clutch and just can't land your shots. But pound for pound, AR clutch Berserk is the way to go if you're going to go that route. I did not. So I got to thinking, how do I take out that advantage that the Berserk clutch AR builds have? And that is going predominantly armor over health, because when they are hitting your armor, they do not have that 29% damage to health advantage. So in that case, in point, that actually makes SMGs actually viable in more or less that situation. So let me just save you the frustration. I know it's easy to just, you want to try something new, something different, and you like, the Berserk Clutch, and you've been using the AR version, and you just want to try the SMG version. I'll go ahead and warn you, you're not going to have as much fun. And, it is something new, but you're going to, end up getting really, really frustrated because of going up against all those AR Berserk Clutch builds. And within, the first 10 or 15 minutes, you're like, nope, SMG Clutch Berserk is just not viable in the current state of the game. So go try the Duplex. If you watched and tuned into the stream last night, you would actually see this build particular in action, more or less, for well over 2 hours. We owned all 3 Dark Zones. We'd go to one Dark Zone starting out. We would actually chase everyone out of the server, become dead. We'd go to the next one, rinse and repeat, end up in the ODZ, and I mean, it completely slaps. In comparison, definitely when compares to more or less the counterpart of, the SMG clutch variation, I would say this would actually, pound for pound, head to head, this version, this build here would actually dominate a SMG clutch build. For 2 reasons. We are using Bloodsucker. Now, Bloodsucker, in case you didn't know, when you rip someone's armor off, you get a proc of armor. And the PvP stats of it, I believe you get 2 stacks for 5 seconds or 10 seconds. So that is going to help out your survivability. And since you already have 489.4k armor and 100k health, and if you have better pieces with better percentages on them, use them while you can before Gear 2.0 gets here. But just keep in mind that that is several months away, so any build videos that are coming out now are still very much viable, except for SMG clutches. So let me just get that out of the way. But this particular piece, it doesn't have an awesome percentage roll. It only has 14%, but then I put on 41,411 armor, and then it has 34,108 health with that Bloodsucker. Requires 11 or more defensive Legos. So that 2 procs of it, 30% armor. And the good thing as far as when it comes to clutch builds, Bloodsucker feeds off of that, because they get back, whether it be 15 to 20% health, depending on if they're using the perfect talents or not with clutch, and then they get back 1 or 2% armor. So if their armor is already off when you engage them, and they hit you with just 1 or 2 crits, they're going to have armor back. And if you just take that 1 or 2% that they gain off clutch, then that is going to give you a proc of Bloodsucker. So Bloodsucker feeds off clutch. keep that in mind. And this particular chest piece has 2 defensive and an offensive mod slot. I wish I had better SMG mods. I'm pretty sure those of you out there may have better ones, and your damage will actually reflect that. I think the most I have like one that's like 6%. The rest, or as you see on the screen, around 5 or 5.5, such as this one in here, with 5128 armor, 3% total armor, 4% explosive resistance. The second one, 4869 armor, 3.5% total armor, and then 3% explosive resistance. Now, when it comes to the question is, why aren't you using the True Patriot mask or True Patriot gloves and then using a Suck Me Off mask, so that way you can have a roll of 50% hazard protection and then of course insulated, and that way with this particular build you would have 100% hazard protection instead of the 80 that I have now. And that is because of, on Suck Me Off gloves, it comes with Perfectly Wicked. Now, Perfectly Wicked actually works out well and synergizes with Spark, especially if you're using a Stinger Hive like I am on this build, because that Stinger Hive will inflict bleed. In turn, that procs Wicked, but also that Hive will actually proc Spark with you as well. So that's an additional 35% weapon damage on top of my already base damage. As you can see at 22.7 in the ODZ, or even the normalized versions of the Dark Zone, you'll see in the footage from the live stream. That link will be in the description below. Just on the base back end of the magazine with the apartment here, it's hitting for over 27, almost 28, and then you got to factor in that 35% on top of that, and you can see, you know, where that absolutely goes. It absolutely rips. But with this particular glove, 13% SMG damage, 2983 health. Of course, that Perfectly Wicked, when you apply a status effect, gain 20% weapon damage for 20 seconds, and 20 seconds is an eternity. So moving on to that second piece of Heligard that gives me that 20% hazard protection. On this particular backpack, I have 5.5% total armor, 5% weapon damage, 30,476 armor with Hardened and Spark. Spark is, in case you didn't know, damaging enemies with skills or explosives grant 15% weapon damage for 15 seconds. And it has an offensive and defensive mod slot. 4.5% weapon damage in the offensive mod slot going to my SMG. In the defensive mod slot, 4869 armor, 3.5% total armor, and then 3% explosive resistance. Now on to the 3 pieces of the True Patriot, in which those give me the 10% total armor, and of course the red, white, and blue. When you shoot an enemy, apply a debuff to them. Debuffs are applied in the order red, white, and blue, cycling every 2 seconds. Red decreases damage dealt by the enemy. White restores armor to friendlies that shoot this enemy, and blue boosts skill haste to friendlies that shoot the enemy. So mainly you want to try to, if you can, sometimes you can't, since it cycles every 2 seconds, you can't just, you know, sit there and wait and get shot just so it'll cycle. But 2 seconds is just a moment, and you really want to tag them when it's on the red or white, because the red will actually help out your squad mates. But if you're solo, then you definitely want to hit them in the red when they're flagged red, because that'll decrease the damage dealt by them. In turn, it'll apply that debuff, so it works out really well. This particular mask, 50% has protection and 15,686 health, with a 4.5% SMG damage mod in it. Now on to the Kneepads, 12% total armor. In this particular mod slot, 5.5% weapon damage. In the defensive mod slot, 5644 armor, 3% total armor, and then 3% explosive resistance. Now that third and final piece of the True Patriot would be the holster, 787 skill power. I could, you know, change out different ones, and as you can see on the left with this particular one, I do have more health at 40,125. And that would actually increase my health, but then it also decreases my armor. I'm actually wanting one that'll have a good percentage-based armor value on it, or I should say, my apologies, health-based, because you can't get armor on your holster. So, like the, what was it? The holster that I believe it was in the Den of Thieves yesterday, it had 14.5% health on it. So if I could get something like that and put it in case, like on this one, over the 7.5% crit chance, and then switch out that 24,600 health for the likes of a roll around 45 to 50k health, then that in turn will shoot up my health and then I would still get the 2 offensive mods. So then I'm predominantly looking at around 160, 170k health, and still having 489 or more armor. So definitely, if you have those pieces, put on a percentage of health here, and the highest health roll that you can actually get, so that way you can further increase your survivability. Now let's go over the stats. Oh, sorry, I almost forgot. Yet, since I only have the 80% instead of the 100, that is why on this particular apartment has stop, drop, and roll. While equipped, rolling removes burning, bleed, poisons, and status effects. It works out really, really well if you don't have 100% has protection. And of course, on the sidearm, I went with protected reload. And of course, on the first apartment, aka the duplex, I have protected deploy, so I pretty much have all my bases covered where I'm deploying my skills, such as the hive, or I'm reloading. Then I get the protected reload, and then of course when it comes to the stop, drop, and roll, that is to compensate for me only having that 80% hazard protection. Onto the character sheet as follows. I still have 14.5% crit chance and 25% crit hit damage, 50% headshot damage, and that's just the baked in crit chance that is actually on the SMG. Minus 10% reload time, plus 10% accuracy, 0% stability. All weapon damage bonus is only 15.5%, and then of course 58% SMG damage bonus, for a total of a little over 3.5%. And that is, mainly due to the, I would say, mediocre offensive mods when it comes to SMGs. So you definitely can get well over 23k, upwards to 24k, because I'm particularly missing out on 2% at least on 4 of my offensive mod slots. So that's another 8% weapon damage right there. And then if you have the max of ones of the 6.5, then that's going to be at least another 12 to 13% weapon damage that I can potentially get. Now let's keep scrolling on down. There's all the talents as followed: 49k armor, 53 to 80 health regen, 106 560 max health, 15% protection from elites, 14.19% explosive resistance, 50% pulse resistance, and I thought it was 80, but I guess my mathematics is wrong. I'm at 70% has protection, and that's as follows. But before I forget and end this video and enough of my talking, let's go over the mods for the particular build. Now, if you're running more or less crit chance, then you would want, the crit chance mod attachments on here. But since I'm going off raw base damage, then I went with the plus 20% optimal range on my optics with the ACOG scope. Also on the muzzle, I went with the loud vent brake because it gives me an additional 10% optimal range. So in total, I'm gaining 30% optimal range. It definitely helps out from the damage drop-off on mid-range gunfights. On the underbarrel, I went with the 10% accuracy, and of course, on the magazine, plus 20 rounds and minus the 10% reload speed. But, when it comes to the underbarrel, you can choose whatever you want. If you want a little bit more stability, I gain, in my opinion, I value accuracy a little bit more over the stability, because the stability is still easy to control as far as the recoil. And when it comes to the muzzle, the best option for me personally, and the most value that I would gain, would be from the optimal range, because as stated before, stability wouldn't help me out any. Since I'm not going with crit chance whatsoever, I could go on with more accuracy. But just with that little bit of additional accuracy, I think you're fine, and that you would actually gain more value just by putting the optimal range on your muzzle and your optics. But definitely go try it out. It is a lot of fun. I went with the survivalist because without having any skill power whatsoever, your base heal for the pokey heal for PvP is 14,212. And as stated before, the hive is a twofold system. It'll actually proc Wicked and Spark simultaneously to get that extra 35% weapon damage. You could go with the Demolitionist, because once the armor is procced, or I should say broken, you do get both magazines refilled, but there is an internal cooldown on it. So since the reload time is only 2.5 seconds, it just depends on if you want to get more value. And the pokey heal ball is actually the best heal in the game. so why not use it and utilize it? And plus, also, I like, using the crossbow to actually, shoot arrows into agents while I'm running a dark zone. It's a lot of fun, and it takes a little bit more skill than just, hip fire a grenade launcher, because predominantly the ones that use the demolitionist aren't using it for any kind of skill on the skill tree. Um, they are more or less just using it to farm the supply drop so that way they can get ammo for the specialist weapon and then just grenade launcher people. So I think in this case, I get more value out of the survivalist. If I run low on ammo, you can do cover to cover to regain ammo, especially if no one in your group is running the gunner specialist. I choose not to go with the gunner myself because a lot of people just cheese it and only run it for the 50% additional armor bonus when you apply an armor kit. They'll take a little bit of damage. I've seen some actually, damage themselves or let NPCs damage them before they go into a fight, and then apply that armor kit to get that 50% bonus armor. And, it's kind of like a rinse and repeat. They go immediately try to face tank you. That, bonus armor is, wiped away. Half their armor is gone, and then all of a sudden they ballerina flip, get into cover, run away so they can apply that other 50% bonus armor for applying another armor kit, and it's kind of rinse and repeat, and it's kind of just cheesing a broken system. Same way with the technician. You can run the technician here, but since I'm not predominantly going any skill power whatsoever, the only reason why someone would actually want to use the technician without any skill power is to actually, if they have a little bit, even around 1500, to get that extra 50% skill power. So that way, they can further their skills, or they have no skill power whatsoever, and they're just using it and having, like, say, a Firefly equipped, because then they're just throwing it away and not actually throwing it at a target, so it actually dies, and then you actually get a proc of armor when a skill dies from the technician. So people are predominantly cheesing that as well. And, if they need that extra crutch to cheese a broken system, then have at it. It's just from a personal preference of the survivalist. For one, the cover to cover to regain your ammo, the best heal in the game from the pokey heal, and also if your teammates are in a close proximity to you when you apply an armor kit, they actually, gain a little bit of armor from you applying one as well. So it helps out my teammates. I can gain ammo in case no one in my team is running the gunner, and then I don't have to cheese a broken system and rely on such things like that as a crutch. But that's just me and my personal preferences. Definitely go try it out, check it out. It's a lot more fun and definitely a lot more viable than an SMG clutch build, because you're just going to get completely creamed and massacred by the predominant AR clutch builds in the dark zone. So I definitely advise against an SMG berserk clutch build, and definitely go this route. You'll have a lot more fun, a lot more survivability, and like I said, Bloodsucker actually feeds off the clutch builds, so you can definitely melt them, so that way they have to go ballerina flip and use their double heals, or that 50% armor proc from the gunner, just to actually have any kind of contest your ability whatsoever with this build, because you're going to shred them. But anyways, enough of my talking. Sorry for rambling on. We'll see you guys watching later.